So here's the problem. For many of us, often we are seduced by how things look, rather than focusing on the reality behind it. We are seduced by appearances and motivated by self-interest. Instead of looking at the fine detail, looking beyond the surface and identifying precisely what's on the table, we are fooled by the perception of stuff. We allow ourselves to be led by what people say, rather than studying what they actually do. The thing is, for many of us, we don't just fall for perception. We actually buy into it and follow it. We build our goals, our relationships, and even our self-worth around it. We confuse performance for personality, image for truth, and reputation for reality. And the dangerous part is, we don't even realize we're doing it. We model our lives after the curated success of people we don't even know, pretending we understand their journey just because they've been able to eloquently finesse their way into our hearts by manipulating how we see them. This isn't about judgment. This is about clarity. It's about discernment. It's about seeing through the illusion that we've been sold and asking better questions about the people we put on pedestals and the standards we set for ourselves. We live in a world where perception is louder than truth. So in this video, I'm going to break down my top 10 selection of high-profile situations that are the clearest proof that what we see isn't always what it is. And I promise you, the number one example on this list will blow your mind. Okay, so let's dive in. In at number 10, Chris Watts. He posted smiling family photos shortly before murdering his wife and children. The perception: public affection equals genuine love. However, the reality is, public gestures can be a distraction from private dysfunction. Number 9, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Who could forget public images of glamour, fame, success, and fortune? But the court cases exposed toxicity and abuse on both sides. Number 8, Robin Williams, legendary Hollywood actor and comedian. In spite of his on-screen funny man persona, he desperately suffered with severe depression and challenges with his mental health. Dropping in at number 7. And likewise, the highly talented tennis Grand Slam superstar Naomi Osaka, who withdrew from events due to her mental health struggles in spite of her phenomenal success. In at number 6. Who remembers Chelsea Christ, Miss USA 2019? She seemed to be joyful and successful, but later died by unaliving herself, sparking a deeper conversation about mental health in high achievers. Number 5. He's Jordan Belfort. He's the one that made millions out of selling illegal stock market schemes. This man smashed it. He mastered the art of grooming the players in the financial markets. He ticked all the boxes. He made an absolute fortune out of swindling wannabe get-rich-quick investors to part with their money and trust him. When it comes to selling absolute BS, his supposed reputation for having the Midas touch earned him the nickname the Wolf of Wall Street. Number 4. Now permit me to introduce you to a lady known as Elizabeth Ann Holmes. Would you believe she was once described as the next Steve Jobs? A brilliant young woman who founded a health tech startup called Theranos at just 19 years old. Holmes claimed Theranos had developed a revolutionary technology that could run hundreds of medical tests just using a single drop of blood. She raised nearly $1 billion and the company was once valued at $19 billion. She graced magazine covers and was seen as the female icon of Silicon Valley. The moral of the story: perception, genius CEO changing healthcare forever. Reality, dangerous illusion built on ambition, secrecy, and deception. Holmes sold the image and the world bought it. Sweeping in at number 3. Indeed, at all levels, appearances can be highly misleading. The perception: a royal fairy tale. Prince Charles marries Lady Diana Spencer in a globally televised wedding watched by over 750 million people. She was young, beautiful, and dubbed the People's Princess. They were seen as the perfect couple. The reality: behind the glamour was a deeply unhappy marriage. Charles was still emotionally tied to Camilla Parker Bowles even before the wedding. Diana, at just 19 at the time of engagement, struggled with the intense scrutiny, pressure, and isolation of royal life. She suffered from bulimia, depression, and a lack of emotional support from the royal family. Both had extramarital affairs. Diana famously said in an interview, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." The moral of the story: perception, a perfect royal love story. The reality reality, a painful union shaped by duty, deception, and public performance. It wasn't a fairy tale, it was a cautionary tale about image over truth and the cost of ignoring reality for the sake of appearances. We're almost there. Number 2. Allow me to introduce you to Jim Jones, a legendary cult leader. The Perception, a revolutionary preacher and civil rights hero. Jim Jones founded the People's Temple in 1950, preaching racial equality, community, and socialism. He adopted children from multiple ethnic backgrounds and called it the Rainbow Family. He was admired by politicians, religious leaders, and activists alike. To many, he looked like the future of spiritual leadership, progressive, inclusive, and selfless. The reality: Jones was a master of deception and exploitation with a God complex. Behind closed doors, Jones ruled with fear and surveillance and sexual abuse, and he also staged miracles. He used faith and idealism to control people, demanding loyalty, isolating them from their family, and enforcing brutal punishments. In the 1970s, under pressure from media investigations, he moved his followers to a remote settlement in South America called Jonestown, promising a utopia. The tragedy: when US Congressman Leo Ryan visited Jonestown to investigate abuse allegations, things spiraled. Ryan and 4 others were murdered by Jones's guard at a nearby airstrip. Hours later, Jones orchestrated a mass unaliving where over 900 people, including over 300 children, died after drinking punch laced with poison. Jones later unalived himself with a bullet to the head and called it a revolutionary unaliving. Now, before we get to number 1, here's a bonus example. Ted Bundy. The Perception: charming, smart, harmless. Ted Bundy was clean-cut, articulate, well-educated, and good-looking. He studied psychology, worked on political campaigns, and even volunteered at a suicide crisis hotline. To the public and even some police, he didn't even look like a killer. He looked like a guy you would trust. However, the reality: Bundy raped, tortured, and murdered at least 30 women, although the true number may be even higher. He lured victims using fake injuries, impersonated authority figures, and manipulated their trust. He often returned to the crime scenes to sexually violate the corpses. And he escaped prison twice, committed more murders while on the run, and defended himself in court, turning his trial into a media spectacle. Bundy was executed in 1989, but not before attracting a bizarre fan base of women who were still drawn to his looks and charm, even after his crimes were public. His story has become a cultural obsession. Books, documentaries, and even a Netflix movie starring Zac Efron. The moral of the story: The Perception: a bright, likable young man with a promising future. The reality: a remorseless predator hiding evil behind a smile. Bundy proved that evil doesn't always come with a warning sign. Sometimes it's well-spoken, sometimes it's polite, and sometimes it has all the characteristics of true love. And that's what makes him so dangerous. And that's why I'm passionate about making this video, just to give you all the heads up on what a red flag could look like. And in at number 1, The Perception: a powerful man of God. Jimmy Swaggart was one of America's most famous televangelists in the 1980s. He preached fiery sermons about sin, repentance, and salvation. In his ministry, he reached out to millions of viewers worldwide through TV, radio, and crusades. He was seen as a spiritual leader and a moral authority, trusted by Christians across the globe. However, the reality: Jimmy was living a double life. In 1988, Swaggart was exposed for soliciting a sex worker. He gave a tearful, dramatic confession to his church, famously saying,
"I have sinned against you, my Lord."
But just a few years later, he was caught again with another sex worker. He refused to step down from preaching and continued his ministry despite all these scandals. The moral of the story: The Perception: a holy man preaching purity and righteousness. The reality: a flawed man preaching one thing while living another. Now the thing is, Swaggart taught people how to avoid sin, while secretly diving headfirst into it himself. It's a reminder that powerful platforms and polished sermons don't always reflect personal integrity. But let's be honest, what does integrity actually mean to you? As long as it looks good and it feels good, if the maths ain't mathing, why should anyone care? For example, the perception of love. The perception is it's that special feeling, but shouldn't it be about a connection? But in reality, love is work, discipline, integrity, and choice. I hope you found this video useful, but for now I'm done.